Hello everyone, welcome back to CSE's Live Chat. I am Sukanya Nair. So 2025 has been a lot. It has been, in the truest sense, a year of extremes. Extreme weather events were not just frequent, they were relentless, they were chaotic. So to make sense of all that 2025 was and the year gone by, I have with me two experts, Kiran Pandey and Akshit Sangomla. So Kiran also happens to be the one of the authors of Climate India 2025, which is also an annual report that Down to Earth and CSE puts out, and also the State of India's Environment Report in Figures, which basically tracks what all happens in data in the primarily the pivotal data science related to India. And Akshit happens to be down to a science journalist who covers and who basically reports everything climate, extreme weather. And if there is anything you can obviously add.
Yeah, it's mostly tracking extreme weather and the science behind extreme weather, and also other policy-related things such as adaptation and loss and damage.
All right. So let's begin. Let's talk about extreme weather events. Kiran, I'll start with you. So CSE has been tracking extreme weather events since 2022.
Yes.
Especially because I think that's when the Climate
Around the
India,
top, yeah.
the report began. So looking at the data over the years, how has 2025 been different? How does it stand out? If there is any unprecedented data that you would like to share?
So, Sukanya, thank you for having me over here. Yeah. So, as you just mentioned, that we have been tracking these events in 2022. So, it's almost 4 years. Okay. So, what is really that we have observed over these years is that this year has been actually worrying, and the trends over the 4 years have been actually worrying and alarming as well. Okay. First of all, so every year has been bad in terms of extreme weather days and other things. But what is clearly emerging out is that the events have been more frequent, more widespread, and more damaging as well. And this year in particular. Okay. So in short, I'll say this year stands out as the most devastating year so far in terms of extreme events and the impact. Okay. Now coming to how this year is different. Okay. Yes, we have been tracking month by month for the last 4 years. So interestingly, and what we do is we calculate this in terms of number of days with extreme events. Okay, so this year, so far, we have analyzed data for the first 11 months of this year, between Jan to November. This is around 334 days. So what we have found is that of the 334 days, 331 days, India has seen extreme weather events. That is almost every day, not just so it's just 3 days short of 334.
99%.
Yeah, yes. Okay. And so the same story, so it's almost a disaster every day. Okay? But and the same trend was there since 2022 onwards. Okay, disaster every day. But this year it has been more intense, more frequent, more damaging. So that's why this has been marking year. Okay, and these disasters are of various kinds. These include, so we track heat wave, floods, lightning, storms, cloudbursts, cyclones, cold waves. Okay, so this includes all these events. Now, and when you compare, if you compare this with last 4 years, so in 2022, for example, we had seen these events on around 292 days. Okay, in the first 11 months. This is just, I'm talking about first 11 months. We have just analyzed data for this period. And now this has gone up to 331 days. So that's the difference I'm talking about. Okay. Similarly, if you talk in terms of months, okay, so of the 11 months that we have analyzed this year, in 9 of the 11 months that we have analyzed, okay, these events occurred almost every day in 9 of the 11 months. And if you compare this with the past, in 2024, we had seen this for just 6 months. Okay, that means a bit more frequent. Okay, the trend clearly show that. Similarly, so this clearly show that it's intensifying, more frequent, and again, this is not just confined to peak seasons. Across the season, you'll see this is happening. Okay, so there's no break. So which means difficult to find a normal weather, a normal month this year. No. So, so what does this translate to? So why we are even concerned about these events? The prime reason is the impact this has on our livelihoods, on our economy. That's why we're concerned about these events. So even that has been devastated. The scale, we have seen the devastation has been enormous. Okay. For example, let's talk about human deaths due to these events. In 2022, we had around 3,000 deaths in the first 11 months. Okay. This year, it has gone to around 4,000. It's over 4,000 deaths. It's so it's almost 47%, 50% more than what we had in the past. Okay? Similarly, if you see in terms of the crop area lost due to these events, this is in terms of affected, which means your standing crops getting affected by these frequent events. That's again a mind-boggling figure that we have got. And this is also when we have the data which is an underestimate. Okay, larger states still don't have their data out in public domain. So if you talk in terms of crop area damage, this year in just 11 months we have lost around around 17 million hectares of crop land has been affected due to these events. Okay, this is almost 9 times of the land that was affected in 2022. Okay, just the scale I'm talking about. Okay, so you're seeing your human lives are affected, people are dying, and your crop area getting affected, which means obviously your livelihood and farmers are at stake. Okay, their lives are at stake. Another interesting trend that we have found is that in general we think it's for example, some regions particularly more vulnerable. It's not the case. So we analyze data across 4 regions as per the IMD classification, and no region has been safe. Almost every region has been affected severely. Okay, and of these, the most important state I would like to highlight in this case is Himachal Pradesh. Right. The state made news right from the beginning, okay, for cloudburst. Okay. And if you see across the seasons, this state has been the most affected in terms of number of days, and also in terms of if you say the seasonality. So across all the seasons, this state was there upfront in terms of number of extreme days. Okay. Okay. This is the most vulnerable state I will talk if you see the data that is coming out. So this is in terms of number of days during this period. So and this is the highest frequency for any state that we have analyzed. It's on the top for a wrong reason. Okay. Similarly, in terms of deaths, Andhra Pradesh is on the top this time. And strangely, we have around over 600 deaths in this state, Andhra Pradesh. 600 deaths, not less number. And after this, we have Madhya Pradesh with over 500 deaths. So deaths are not less. Again, if you see, these are spread across this region. Andhra Pradesh is in south of southern peninsula. Madhya Pradesh is in the central part of the, India. And you have Jharkhand in east and northeast part of the country. Okay, so every region has seen deaths and devastation. And the most important state I would like to highlight in terms of crop area is Maharashtra. Okay, in terms of region, you'll see Central India has been the most affected in terms of damages that is incurred, and damage in terms of crop loss area. Okay, and this always stands out. The central region of the country always stands out in terms of crop area lost. And this is not just because the numbers are because the numbers really show that, and Maharashtra is on the top. Again, for a wrong reason, of the total area that we have lost this year, a substantial portion is from Maharashtra in central India. Okay? And if you see, this also relates with the suicides the farmers commit in the state. So there's a link. That also shows how these events also affect the farmers and their lives, and ultimately they end up committing such sad things, just a very sad state of affairs. Now, this is also when Northwest India has seen the maximum number of days, okay? But the maximum number of damage has been Central India. So see, so events are happening, but maybe the devastation also varies from region to region. So,
and cut you there.
Yes,
we'll have to.
Yes,
I'll move to the next question. So, I mean, we know that. I mean, across India, we are seeing. So we know that this 2025 did not just stand out for extreme weather in India. It's not just an India story. It's a global story. So it would be great if you could also highlight some events globally, like key incidents that you think seems to be put out. Okay.
So when the year began, okay, all of us can't forget this year because of the California wildfires. Okay, and why I remember that event is particularly because usually we talk about events in terms of that poor get affected the most through these events, but this particular event highlighted that there's no boundary between rich and poor. Everybody was affected. Okay, and if you talk in terms of insurance, this was one of the largest event that had the with most of the insured amount was highest in case of insured losses was highest due to these events so far. The latest figures have been just released in terms of insured losses that the world faced, and this event is again on the top. Okay. Yeah, so the California wildfires definitely stands out. And after this, I can just remember one more event, which is again not a wet event, but if you talk in terms of European heat waves, again making news. Even now it's making news because of the health impact. So these events not just impact your economy, livelihood, but also affect your health, and that we can't afford to ignore. Coming back to, and so the year began with California wildfires, the year ended with the floods in Sri Lanka.
Right.
Okay, so so if you see, so in between there are many events in our part of the world, like South Asian part of the world. We also had this heat wave in the month of April, which Pakistan and India both suffered. Again, it was for a short span of time, okay, as compared to the previous years.
Right.
But again, it was like intense heat. And what is also happening is people always say that there's no link with climate change, but these events that I'm talking about have a link with climate change. So the scientists of World Weather Attribution Network have clearly said that these events have a link with climate change as well as therefore. So these events that we're talking about is, I'll say, a sign of climate change that we can't afford to ignore.
Akshit, let me rope you in now. Since we are talking about the global scenario, you have been tracking the science behind these extreme weather events. So, can you tell us what is the primary reason for this intense extreme weather scenario that we are seeing right now?
Yeah, thank you, Sukanya. So basically, there are two different types of factors that are involved here. There are both of them are mostly human-made, human-induced. For instance, there are the climatic factors for warming that has happened till now. Since pre-industrial time, we are warmer. The Earth is warmer by around 1.3 degrees Celsius. That's the long-term average that we have right now. And then there are also non-climatic factors such as land use changes, urbanization, there is deforestation, all those factors. So among the climatic factors that I usually track, there is also this the last 3 year period has been unprecedented. Like there has been unprecedented warming in the last 3 years. The warming began in 2023 around the mid June, July 2023, and has sustained till now. Even now, that warming is sustained. And this particular period, this 3 year period, the warming has been much higher than the previous years. It has been higher than previous record years also. The previous warmest years on record were 2020 and 2016. Both of them were El Nino years. And this 2023-24 was also an El Nino year. But even if you compare to those record years, the warming has been unprecedented. And this climate scientists are still studying. They don't understand it completely. Like even if you take into account the El Nino event of 2023-24, if you take into account the reduced warming from the reduction of aerosols, such as sulfate aerosols due to shipping, due to the ban of certain fuels in the shipping. So even if you account for all of that, this warming is unprecedented. So the climate scientists are still not able to understand this. And so 2023 was at that time the warmest year on record. It was very close to 1.5 degrees Celsius, the barrier that we have in our Paris Agreement. Obviously, that is a long-term threshold. It doesn't like single year breaking 1.5 degrees Celsius doesn't mean that the Paris Agreement threshold has broken. But 2023, the annual average was close to 1.5. Then 2024, it became more than 1.5, and 2025 the data shows that it's going to be close to 1.5. So all these 3 years together might cross 1.5. So that is the first time that this is going to happen. 2024 was the first year to cross 1.5 degrees Celsius. That was also the first time that it had happened. And many of the months from June 2023 have also broken the monthly records. We also so the first warmest, the first warmest, the second warmest, the third warmest, all these three warmest months have occurred in these 3 years. And we also saw the warmest day on record on July 22, 2024. So there is like unprecedented kind of warming that is there. But how this particular warming translates into these events, that's more complicated. So there are two ways in which this warming affects the planet and different regions. One, the first is heat-related events, heat and dryness-related events. For instance, the California wildfires. They occurred due to a phenomenon known as hydroclimatic whiplash, which means that 1 year of excessive rainfall succeeded by another year where there is very less rainfall. So early in 2024, California was extremely wet. There was a lot of rainfall that happened, and that induced a lot of growth of vegetation. California also has a lot of vegetation, so that induced a lot of vegetation growth. But later in 2024 and early 2025, like very early in 2025, that period was extremely dry and it was extremely hot. California saw one of its worst summers on record. And so the initial growth basically became the raw material for the wildfires to happen.
For the phenomenon.
And this phenomena is known as a hydroclimatic whiplash, where there is one wet year, when one wet season succeeded by a very extremely dry season. And then there were other local climatic factors such as the Santa Ana winds, which also contributed, which basically induced the wildfires. But the raw material was provided because of this hydroclimatic whiplash. Then there's also the West Asian drought that has been happening for the past 4 to 5 years. There have been wildfires in Turkey, in Syria, extensive wildfires in these regions, and then Iran has been facing drought for the past 4 to 5 years. In fact, the drought is so severe that Tehran, the capital of Iran, the Iranian government wants to actually shift people out of Tehran.
Okay.
This is an official announcement from the Iranian government that came in recently. So it is that kind of intensity that we are seeing, and all these this dryness and this extreme heat and then induced wildfires is a compounded event, which is a climate induced event. We know that it is a climate induced event. Then the other kind of events are the rainfall related events, extreme precipitation related events, and strong wind related events that have occurred in India as well, and that have occurred elsewhere in the world as well. For instance, the twin typhoons that hit Philippines in early November. So the basic thing was that two typhoons hitting together almost within days. So the first one, Typhoon Kalmaigi, that had a lot of rainfall with it. In fact, Cebu region, that is central Philippines, it got like a month's worth of rainfall. Philippines is a rainy country, but still a month's worth of rainfall it got in a day, within a day. So that kind of rainfall the typhoon carried, and it killed I think more than 200 people in Philippines. It also then went on to hit Vietnam and kill people there as well. Then the other cyclone, Fungwang, had strong winds. It was one of the strongest to hit in 2025, and it was the 21st storm to hit Philippines in 2025. And now Philippines gets hit by like 20 typhoons or 20 storms each year. That has become the average. So you can there is no way out for people within a week, right? Like one region is suffering already, and then the other region is also getting hit by different kinds of events. Like the same, it's a typhoon, but one has a lot of rainfall and the other has a lot of wind, has strong winds.
People will not have time to. I mean, by the time they recover from, there's another one hitting.
There's another one. There's another one hitting. So that is one thing. Then there's also the recent cyclones Senyar and Ditwa that hit Sri Lanka. So Senyar formed in a very unusual place. It formed in the Malacca Strait, that is between the Malay Peninsula and the Sumatran island of Indonesia. And so cyclones don't form so close to the equator. That area is very, very close to the equator. Cyclones don't form close to the equator because they don't get the rotation that is required for cyclones to form in that area. So there's this planetary effect known as the Coriolis effect, which is basically due to the rotation of the Earth. It's supposed due to the rotation of the Earth, and that provides the rotation for cyclones to form. But equator, the Coriolis effect is zero. The Coriolis force is zero. So near the equator also, it's not much. So the rotation is not actually available. But science currently can't explain why exactly this storm formed. It did not have devastating winds, but it carried a lot of rainfall. And it also made multiple landfalls between Malaysia and Indonesia, and it killed thousands of people in Indonesia, in Malaysia, and in southern Thailand, that entire Malacca Strait region. And Ditwa also carried a lot of rainfall with it. So this rainfall is basically coming from moisture in the atmosphere, excess moisture in the atmosphere, and that excess moisture is due to warming, is due to evaporation in the oceans, because oceans are also extremely warm, and the evaporation is increasing the moisture in the atmosphere. And for every 1 degree Celsius rise in temperature, the moisture content increases by 7%.
There's a link between the rising temperature and the moisture.
And the moisture in the atmosphere.
Okay.
And this moisture in the atmosphere is basically precipitating in the form of rainfall. It's coming down in the form of rainfall within these storms all across the world. So this also has happened in India.
Right.
Okay, so
I would, since you're talking about it, I would like to know, why did, how did Chennai have a cloudburst?
Uh,
That would be
was
something.
another unusual event that
It
we
was
had
quite
seen.
unusual, right? So
yeah, so
That also had
a near
event,
cloudburst event, yes. So August 30, I think, August 30 in Chennai,
I
around
believe
10 to 10 to
Not about the
12
date,
p.m.
but it was in Chennai.
Yeah. So 10 p.m. to 12 a.m. That is the period when these 5 cloudburst events happened.
Right.
And these cloudburst events have been defined by IMD.
Okay.
So cloudburst is a very specific kind of event, rainfall event. IMD defines it as 100 millimeters of rainfall within an hour and over a very small area, 20 to 30 square kilometers. But IMD defines a cloudburst only for the hills or mountains
Okay.
because scientifically we know till now, meteorologically, that cloudburst events only happen in the hills and mountains.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they are not supposed to
The
happen. in the
plains had
plains.
Right.
cloud.
Yeah, but this was a defined cloudburst event over Chennai. I think the Manali area in Chennai and around that area, those between 10 to 12, they got 5 cloudburst events. That is 100 mm rainfall within that small area in 1 hour. So for a cloudburst event to happen, hills and mountains are required because usually the winds go up the slope,
Right.
they cool down very quickly and they precipitate immediately. So that is why a lot of rainfall happens over a very small area in a very quick time. That is a cloudburst. But so the meteorology of how this cloudburst event happened over Chennai, we are not sure about.
Oh, okay.
So
the science is failing at times.
Science still has to
Exactly.
scientists have to basically explain how this has happened. I've spoken to scientists about it, and obviously they don't have answers. They need to study this, and then during the monsoon, as ma'am said, that there was also floods in Himachal Pradesh, landslides and flash floods in Himachal Pradesh, in Jammu, in I think Kashmir as well, and Jammu Kashmir, and then Uttarakhand, and also there were devastating floods. Punjab being downstream from for many of the rivers, Ravi, Bias, Satluj. Punjab also got a lot of rainfall between mid of August to early September.
The last week of August.
Last 2 weeks of August and early September. And this was due to not just rainfall in the upstream areas, but also rainfall in Punjab. And this rainfall was caused by, again, anomalous weather. Some weather which we know about. The monsoon was active at that time. Monsoon was around and it was active. There were a lot of low pressure areas that were forming in the Bay of Bengal. This is a regular thing that happens during the monsoon. But there were anomalous winds coming in from the Arabian Sea, which was related to the warming in West Asia, extreme warming in West Asia, which is again a climate-induced thing. And then there were also these western disturbances that were coming into India during the monsoon. So that is again something new that has happened this year. So western disturbances usually don't affect India during the monsoon. So they are very extreme. Even if they do, they're extremely rare. The last we know of the significant event that happened due to western disturbance in the monsoon is the Uttarakhand floods of 2013, when there was active monsoon, and the western disturbance and active western disturbance came in, and the Uttarakhand floods happened. So, but this year, from around June 1st towards the end of monsoon, there were 17 western disturbances.
It's again different from the previous years.
And also so we also don't know exactly how these western disturbances happened, because the jet stream that carries these western disturbances doesn't exist over India during the monsoon. So there is a hypothesis that these could be new kind of new, like lesser known type of western disturbances, but there's still science has to account for them.
Surely sounds like that a bad horror movie, which we don't even know the origin story of the villain. And he's just trying to still figure what is happening.
Trying to demystify the science behind these.
I'll have to, we don't have that much time. So one final question before we close. What is the way forward? I mean, all I hear is grim stories from around the world. So what is the way forward for India, at least in terms of preparedness? What can we do?
Yeah, so 2026 does not have any happy news. I just did a story yesterday about there being a possibility of another El Nino developing. There are early signs of an El Nino developing, and that might be in the second half of 2026. That might again push global temperatures above normal, and we might see another 1.5 or near 1.5 year. And because of moisture, because of heat, the extreme weather events are going to continue. What we need is early warning systems to work, because many of these cyclones, actually India is good at tracking. IMD is extremely good at tracking cyclones, but still, the way that these cyclones are behaving now, they're behaving in an unpredictable manner. There's rapid intensification. They carry a lot of rainfall, so all those things are still to be worked out, and we still need more data. We need more observations over India also and globally. Or like for instance, the climate scientists were not able to attribute exactly how much climate change contributed to these storms, Ditwa and Senyar, because the climate models don't represent those areas very well. There are other regions in the world, for instance, many of the African countries, which don't have a lot of observations, and climate models don't
There's a
work.
gap in global south area in
Yes,
terms of climate
yes,
science.
climate science observations and also climate modeling. The climate models mostly don't work for global south. Though India has developed its own climate
Early warning
models,
system.
early warning system. It also has its own climate models now. It has a good observation system, so we need to make it more robust.
So
We
do you
need
want to
to.
say that the Western models will not work for the global south? Is that
Yes, I have that could be one of the things, and that is why India is also developing its own early warning systems and its own climate models and all of that. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much. I mean, it was a grim picture, and like Akshit said, it's going to be scary. It's going to be a scarier 2026.
Let's see. Yeah,
Yeah.
it seems
We
like
are
that.
hopeful. We are still going to be hopeful about it. But thank you so much, guys. And one more thing that I wanted to tell you guys is this live chat is part of a series that we are doing, which is like a year ender, the year that was. We have two more coming up. I mean, this was on extreme weather. I hope it won't be as grim as the extreme weather events, but we have one on energy sector. We'll be discussing the key milestones, what are the major updates from India, and then there's another one on wildlife and forest. That is going to be on 31st, 30th and 31st. It's just going to be back to back. Please do stay tune in and watch them as well. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back.